Oh no, so welcome back to a new videos with my camera. Not my cam my new headset with the new microphone and stuff. Um anyways guys, welcome back to another videos, and today we'll be taking a look at top 10 Mirrodin cards. Oh yes. So basically the most broken artifacts in the whole entire game. So get ready for some pretty degenerate stuff on this list. There's going to be a lot of them. And I skipped over Legions because I was finding the list a little bit hard to make because there wasn't a lot of good cards in that set. So Mirrodin definitely just breezed over that block and just said, hey, I'm the most powerful set. Beware me. So yeah, we're going to be taking a look at these broken cards, and we're going to start off with number 10, and that's Disciple of the Vault. So yeah, most of these are going to be popper cards, so beware of that. So number 10, Disciple of Vault. So if you guys don't know what Disciple of Vault does, which pretty sure everyone and their mothers knows in Pauper what this does, whenever an artifact is put into the graveyard for play, you may have target opponent lose one life. I don't know why you wouldn't have target opponent lose one life. You just make them lose one life. So this is played in affinity decks and Pauper. So it's a very good card because it works in conjunction with the next card we're going to be looking at. So yeah, pretty good effect for what it does, and this, suffice it to say, it's not higher because, well, there's just a lot more broken cards on this list. So yeah, it's this type of list we're doing today. So I didn't think so, but yeah, we're doing it. So here we go with number 9, and we're finally going to take a look at the card of why Affinity is so good in Pauper, and that's atog. So atog is a 1 red and an atog for, you can basically, it says 0, but that's the old Oracle test. You just sacrifice an artifact in play and it gets +2/+2. And you could use this anytime, and you could sacrifice as many artifacts as you want to make it huge. So this is played in conjunction with the affinity decks and Pauper, but it's also used in some devious combos with Disciple of Vault, or you can fling it at your opponent. So there's two ways you can actually win with this deck, and well, one of the ways is just flinging it. So yeah, a lot of people like to, have a candidate to what gets banned in Pauper, and people say atog should be banned in Pauper, or Disciple of Vault. But that would honestly destroy the deck, and I honestly would rather have Disciple of Vault get banned because, well, I think it's easier to abuse. But atog is also pretty good too, so honestly, they're both tied, whichever one gets banned. But I think, that's in my personal opinion. I think Disciple of Vault gets banned, but I still think atog is more powerful than Disciple of Vault. It's just, that's the whole reason a deck exists. Without this card, the deck would not exist. So, yeah. Alright, let's move on to number 8 before we jump ahead of ourselves. Alright, number 8 is the Artifact Lands. So, another popper card, really. So the Artifact Lands are basically what they say they are. They're just artifact lands with a color of their choosing. The problem with these cards is they actually had to be banned in the old standard that they were played in because Affinity was so good there. So yeah, and artifact lands are still played in Pauper, funny enough, and they're used in Affinity X. So a lot of goes together with this list. They're so close together, all the artifact cards. I only put it in the number 8 because I just think that it can't match the same power level of these cards just because it's only in one deck archetype, and the one deck archetype it is used in is, well, granted, kind of the same. Other than that, artifact lands are pretty good on its own, but they just have one downside, and they can be destroyed with artifact removal. So that's what makes them pretty bad. So yeah. Alright, let's move on to number 7, where we have Goblin Charbelcher. So, very interesting and controversial top 7. But I said this is going to be a top 7, so yeah. So, Goblin Charbelcher, 4-mana artifact, and you can reveal the top card of your library until you reveal a land card. And then Goblin Charbelcher deals damage equal to the number of non-land cards revealed this way to target creature or player. And if the revealed land was a mountain, deals double that damage instead. So, basically, you can kill someone if your deck has one mountain in it. So, yeah, pretty messed up. But it's also played in other decks too. There's a lot of other Goblin Charbelcher decks in Legacy, and there's also some Goblin Charbelcher decks in Modern. So this card's still pretty hot, still kicking with a lot of fire. And I would say, a lot of people say Goblin Charbelcher is kind of broken. It's just annoying. It's not even that it's broken; it's just annoying when they get it off. So it's just kind of like a typical trickery decks, in that it doesn't win a lot, but when it does, it just feels stupid. So yeah, don't like stupid cards. But you all hate this card, and it's the Scepter. So we got at number 6, Isoconceptor. And it's a 2-mana artifact. I think a lot of people know what this is because if they play Commander, oh god, you'll know what this is. So when an Isoconceptor enters battlefield, it may exile an instant card with converter mana cost 2 or less from your hand. So keep that in mind. And you may play the exile card. If you do, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. So this was actually played in the old standards at the time, and it was used in Chant Scepter decks. So basically, what you could do is you could play Orm's Chant and the Scepter, and you could lock out your opponent from casting spells or attacking for the rest of the game. And it was a pretty messed up deck in the old standard of its time. And the only way people would get rid of this is if it was on your turn, and they would have to use instant speed artifact destruction. Or if you just had instant speed artifact removal, you can disrupt this combo. But kind of it wasn't worth it sometimes, and you could just scoop and move on to the next game because it would take a while just to get Isoconceptor off the battlefield. So yeah, it kind of messed up. It's also played in some commander decks, CEDH to be exact, and you can put Dramatic Reversal and this and get infinite mana. So there's other messed up combos you can do with this card. I'm not even naming all of them, so I don't know. Just a pretty messed up card, and you can do a lot of like cruel stuff with this card. It's insane. Hell, put this in Vintage, get Ancestral Recall. Just keep getting it for this card. So yeah, 2 mana, draw 3, I'm in. So, and then we got a number 5, and I put this at number 5. A lot of people are going to say this shouldn't be number 5, but I put it at number 5 because of the effect. And it was still played in Modern and some standard decks. And that's Mindslaver. So it's a 6 mana legendary artifact, and you just tap 4, sacrificing, gain control of target players during that player's next turn. I think this card is so messed up. And out of all the effects I hate in Magic, I think, honestly, extra turns and anything having to do with stealing your opponent's, well, deck, basically, is kind of messed up. And I think it's honestly worse than Storm. Just fundamentally. Knowing me, in my opinions, I don't mind the Storm scale and like Storm as a a mechanic. I still think it's broken, but fundamentally, do I think it's like bad or anything? No, I think it's a mistake, but I don't think it's like bad or toxic. Now, what I do think is toxic, and only 2 things come to mind: extra turn spells and gaining control of a player's deck. I don't like Mindslaver effects. I've always hated Mindslaver effects because I feel like it's honestly a buzzkill to the game. And that's why I didn't like Emrakul the Promise End. I don't like any effects like this. They should not be in the game. They should never be in the game. And this should be 11 on the Storm scale. This should never be brought back because I just think it's, well, totally messed up. I don't like it. So honestly, I put this at number 5 because it's kind of a, standpoint I go against for effects that shouldn't be in the game, and this is one of them. And also is played in modern Tron decks where this can be used in a alternate win condition, and they can use Mindslaver effects and Academy runes to Mindslaver your opponent to death. And honestly, I would just scoop the first, if they get out just this, I would just scoop because I don't want my player just having my cards. I can't deal with that. It's not something I would do. So it's one thing if you're stealing your opponent's cards or creatures in play, I'm cool with that. If you're stealing my whole deck, I mean, no, get the fuck out of here. I don't want that to happen. So I just concede. I don't Yeah, I don't like that. So I guess it's fine on MTGO, but it's still, I think it's still messed up. So that's how I feel about this effects. So yeah, let's move on to number 4 before I just have a rage fire of a rant. So at number 4 we have Seething Song. So like I was talking about Storm, this is a Storm card basically because you can pay 2 in a red for an instant. By the way, it's an instant. And you can add 5 mana to your mana pool. Well, 5 brand mana to be specific, but so yeah, this was banned in modern Storm decks because it made Storm decks way too good. And you can reduce that cost with like cards like Brawl to get it to 1 in red. And basically get, well, 3 mana for free. So yeah, pretty messed up. And like I said before about like Storm, I feel like it's just, you know, a mistake of a mechanic. I just don't think it's like messed up. When you're talking about moral standpoint, I think Mindslaver is more stuff. But not to say this card is powerful. This card is really powerful. So yeah, shows how much this list is just toxic 8 Ebola. So for me at least. For other people, people look at Mindslaver as like, why the hell? Why would the hell you have Mindslaver on this list? It's like, it's not even that good. It's like, trust me, it's good. If you see some people just having this, trust me, it's good. Alright, and let's move on to number 3. And number 3 is Cloudpost. So yeah, this is basically, and I was just talking about Tron too. This is basically kind of like Tron, but a little bit more faster. And it's a land locust. Pretty weird to have a land subtype be a locust, but it's a locust. And it enters tap, but you can add 1 mana to your mana pool for each locust on the battlefield. So guess what you can put this in? Well, Cloudpost decks. But you can use Vesuva and other locusts in play to basically gain a crap ton of mana for a shit ton of like low efficiency required. So if you think Tron's messed up, Cloudpost is even more messed up. And it's easier to assemble because, well, there's a lot more lands you can fetch with this in particular. So, and I think the deck is easier to run on because you have more access to locusts. I mean, if you look at it, you basically have 12 locusts, and you could fetch them pretty easily with like Expedition Map and stuff. I mean, sure, the Tron lands are also easy, but you have to assemble them like in a particular way, and you can't have the same land name as the Tron lands. You have to have 3 different. With this, you don't even have to try, you know. You could just get whatever locus you want and have this. Now, granted, you do have to have Cloudpost locus as a particular one, but after that, you're smooth sailing from there. And this deck was actually banned in Modern because of how fast it was, so they just said nope. And it's only played now in Legacy Cloudpost decks, which are still pretty good to this day. So yeah. Alright, let's move on to number 2. And at number 2, we have Chromemox. So, it's a Moxen, basically. But, you'll see the catch. So it's an artifact, of course, for when Chromemox comes into play, you may remove a non-artifact non-land card from your hand, and you can add 1 mana of the imprinted card's colors to your mana pool. So basically, it's a Moxen with a slight downside. You have to get rid of a card from your hand in order for it to tap for mana. Now, you may think that's a downside, but it actually is really good in Legacy and Vintage decks. And they play this card because of how good it is. And it was also played at one point in Modern, but they actually preemptively banned it because of how fast you can get just mana with it. And it's played in some Storm decks, but they're more into Lotus Petal these days, so yeah. It's still a pretty good card on its own, though. And they really don't print 0 mana artifacts like this anymore because, well, you're getting a free mana, basically. And, well, as we learned from Moxen in the past, giving free mana for no mana is just not good. Sure, you're evening out and you're 2-for-1 in yourself to get a mana for this card, but the benefit is way better than the drawback. So that's why they don't print cards like this anymore because, well, they people would rather do that than, you know, spend 1 mana for 1 mana. So there you go. And honestly, that is the basically it's 1 mana for 1 mana. That's it. 2 mana for 2 mana. That's it. That's what it should always be like. But now 2 mana is becoming 1 mana pretty quickly now. So yeah, baseline it just goes up in 3. So 1 mana for 1 mana, 2 mana for 1 mana still, 3 mana for 2 mana. It just does that. So yeah. Alright, and let's move on to number 1. And people will be surprised with this card pick, but I picked number 1 as Chalice the Void. So, it's a really iconic card, Chalice of the Void. It's a double X artifact for when Chalice of the Void comes in play, comes in with X charge counters on it. Okay, and then whenever a player plays a spell with converted mana cost equal to the number of charge counters on Chalice of the Void to counter that spell. So this gets past just any spell. A lot of people would name a 0, and especially in Legacy or Vintage. Granted, in Vintage it's actually restricted, but 0 and 1 are pretty good. You can shut off a lot of cards with that. Like for example, for 0, if you're playing Vintage, you could shut off Mana Crypt. You could shut off the Moxen. You can shut off a lot of cards. In Legacy, if you do it for 1, you can shut off Brainstorm. You can shut off Preordain, Delver. I mean, the list goes on and on what this card can shut off. And it's basically a fixed counter spell for, well, sometimes 0 or sometimes 2. And granted, that's pretty powerful. And this card sees play in sideboards and even in main decks of how good it is. Even see some play in Modern. I mean, this card can be anywhere it's legal in. It can see play because of how versatile the card is. It's played in a lot of decks just because, well, there's no mana required to play this card, and you can kind of be flexible of how you spend mana to cast this. And sometimes, even in late game, it could be good sometimes. If you're worried about a problematic threat, that could be worth 3 or 4 mana. You could spend some mana on this to kind of counterspell it. And you could think of this as like a colorless counterspell card for its fixed mana. So, pretty good card on its own though. But anyways, that's going to do it for the list. What did you guys think? And how do you guys like my new microphone? Is it good? Should I do something about it? Let me know in the comments below. And anyways, guys, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day or night. I'll see you guys in the next video or streams. Bye, and peace.